Hello and welcome to the Soul Dojo, it's Niall here, and this is my first impressions of Astrobot, which is technically the third Astrobot game, but it's also the first Astrobot game, but also the second Astrobot game, but also the second Astrobot game, but to a different first game. And despite that confusion, it may be a masterpiece. When Astrobot Rescue Mission came out for the PSVR in 2018, it felt to me like the Mario 64 of VR, and I still think it's the best VR game. It was so full of love and charm and creative level design that I just couldn't help but fall in love with it. And then Astro's Playroom, which released for free as a pack-in at the launch of the PS5, definitely stripped itself back a bit, being a smaller experience, but showcased the PS5 and its controller's abilities incredibly. But now the new Astrobot game blows both of those out of the water. It takes a lot more from the original VR title than it does from Playroom, like the core incentive of collecting bots, the gacha machine, certain bosses and level design aspects, and it reuses a lot of its soundtrack. But not only are those very welcome inclusions, but they also allow the original game that's now on pretty obsolete hardware to live on. But the number of these repeated elements pales in comparison to the number of brand new, endlessly creative aspects. If Rescue Mission is the equivalent to Mario 64, it'd be tempting to compare Astrobot to Galaxy or Odyssey, but I think it's actually most similar to last year's Super Mario Wonder. It constantly introduces fresh gameplay mechanics and levels that completely change the way you play. For example, at the start of this level you gain the ability to shrink down really small, and it's the most excited I've been by a game mechanic since some of the Wonderflower stuff in Mario Wonder. I have never seen this shrinking down idea executed so perfectly and seamlessly, and it's made me desperate to see Team Asobi get the opportunity to do more with this mechanic. It'd be cool to see them get the keys to the kingdom and do like an Ant-Man game or something similar to that. And that is just the tip of the iceberg. Each and every level at its core is so well built and creative that whenever you get one of these power-ups that give you an ability you otherwise wouldn't, like the shrinking or this one where you can create platforms under you wherever you go, it feels like an actual treat. Astrobot treats ideas as a currency that it constantly wants to give to you. If it's not actively surprising you, it's impressing you with level design that constantly makes you smile. This is never more evident than in its hidden collectibles, like the puzzle pieces or more prevalently the missing bots that there are 7 of in each main level, and these completely range from, oh that was right in front of my eyes, to, oh I found that through pure chance. But what I did find most impressive is how quickly you learn the language of the game. I often found myself in a part of a level where there was nothing at all indicating there was a bot nearby, but I just knew that there was and that I should be exploring. And that's the thing, despite these being linear levels, I do often feel like I'm exploring. There's an almost open world feeling to it at times, and that's mainly because of how well spread out everything is. Another absolute treat is the inclusion of iconic PlayStation characters, both past and present, as findable bots. These inclusions run the risk of being self-indulgent, especially because of how often this game strives to remind you of PlayStation. I mean, the main plot is literally that your ship, which is a PS5, has crash landed and you need to go and find all the parts to repair it, like the CPU, GPU, stuff like that. But it never does cross that line into feeling too self-aggrandizing, and instead it feels genuinely excited to show off the company's legacy. I am usually completely allergic to stuff like this, but there's something about the wide-eyed attitude that this game borrows from its main character that causes it to completely get a pass from me. What's especially fun is that after the final boss of each world, you get to play a level that plays as like a kind of bodified version of a PlayStation gem, like Ape Escape or God of War. These are such a pleasant treat at the end of each world. It adds so much and really makes it feel like you're getting a great amount of content in this little package. Astrobot also feels like it makes great use of the PS5's hardware. Of course it uses the controller's gimmicks, especially the triggers, as perfectly as Astro's Playroom does, and while it's clearly not shooting for photorealism, its cartoony art style is pulled off with great fidelity and just looks absolutely gorgeous at all times. Plus it's at a tightly locked 60 frames per second, which at no point has faltered. It's maybe the best running and most polished a PS5 game has run so far at launch. I feel like this generation we've seen so many buggy and broken launches, but despite its wide range of mechanics, fluid simulation and interactive elements, it's all executed flawlessly. The game is just brimming with fun ideas, overflowing charm, and is boosted by a sparkling soundtrack. Despite all this, I do find myself wishing that this whole experience was a PSVR 2 game instead. I own a PSVR 2 and it's just absolutely crying out for a game like this, or really any game for that matter. I really thought an Astrobot sequel was an absolute lock for the device, and while I'm super glad that this game, being just a straight up console title, has made it playable for a much larger install base, I do just really wish that this impressive VR headset that Sony made had something like this to play on it, especially with how good the original title was for the first PSVR. While the comparisons to Nintendo and especially Mario have been flowing in from every single reviewer, even myself, I think that does a disservice to how unique and creative this game is. It's not just a huge step up for the Astro Bot series, but it's a perfect addition to the PS5's library. Playing this game is like watching and listening to a great orchestra perform. There's a lot going on, but every single element is so finely tuned and in perfect sync with everything else, and it just creates an overwhelmingly enjoyable experience that you can't help but get swept up in. All in all, what I'm saying is, pick up this game. I said the same about Rescue Mission at the time, but the PSVR was a niche enough piece of hardware that it didn't get the attention it deserved, but I truly can't imagine someone not enjoying this game. I'm having an absolute blast with it, and I can't recommend it enough. It is a must-buy for the PS5. And that's all I've got for you. There's only so much I can say about how great this is without going overly specific about gameplay mechanics and little stuff that pops up, because I really want people to play it for themselves and be surprised by it. So much of the charm and love that I have for this game comes from just being surprised at every turn and going, oh, that's a cool idea, every minute. So yeah, that's all I got. Thank you very much for watching this. Please subscribe to the channel if you're new around here. A bunch of cool stuff is happening real soon. Get around the socials. The links to everything are in the description, but most importantly, take care of yourself. See you real soon. We love you.